So as I mentioned in my review for the first Spider-Man game, Spider-Man is pretty much my favorite pop culture character, period. Um, and so I obviously love the character and a lot of his stories, and as I also stated in that review, I'm a huge fan of the first game, and well, here we have what is essentially Spider-Man 1.5. Obviously, we have the impending release of Spider-Man 2 just around the corner. I figured there was no better time than now to go back and replay Miles Morales and go ahead and you know, pump a review out real quick. And so today I'll be reviewing Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is a game that I do enjoy, but I think it has a lot of flaws. And so today we're going to talk about those. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe if you enjoy it. And without any further ado, guys, let's go ahead and hop right on in. So as I always tend to do with my reviews when I can, I'm going to go ahead and start things off with the story here. And I gotta say, I don't think that the story here is as good as the first games. I don't think it's a weak story by any means, but I don't think that it's as standout as one would have hoped coming out of the first Spider-Man game. So obviously no spoilers, but this time around you follow, get this mind-blowing idea, Miles Morales instead of Peter Parker, who is very early on in the game kind of written out of the story. And it's a coming-of-age story for Miles. When you start as Peter in the first Spider-Man game, he's already, older and has already been doing this for a while. But when you start off as Miles in this game, he's still learning how to be Spider-Man. He's still the younger kid. He still makes the mistakes. And so this is really a coming of age story, and I do really enjoy those, especially with, Spider-Man in general. I'll take whatever story I can get. But at the same time, I don't feel like the story itself is always at its strongest. So the villain to this game, who I obviously won't touch on a whole lot, the Tinkerer though is their name. I feel like their character leaves quite a bit to be desired. Um, you're very much given a lot of background on this character and given a lot of understanding of why their motivations and why they're doing what they're doing. And as time goes on, the character, for somebody who starts off with good intentions and understandable motives, just devolves into a bit more of a, I don't want to say one note villain because they're never that bad, but they lose their interest by the end of the game where, they make some decisions and they do some things that take them from, again, understood motivations and maybe coming at this from, a right angle to, well, yeah, they're just a bad guy at this point, just another run of the mill, villain. And I feel like that's another issue that this game kind of suffers from, but that's more of a tie-in to another issue on the whole as well, is that there's really no villains in this game. As far as notable like named Spider-Man villains, you have a very small number here, and even a repeat, which is obviously not a whole lot compared to what the first game had. And again, I mentioned that leads into a bigger issue, which is actually what I'll go ahead and touch on next. But you know, it's still when you don't have that many villains, you really want to make sure that they all stand out. And I think that obviously, most importantly, you want your main villain to stand out. And I just wasn't a huge fan of them. Um, and I just feel like throughout there was a couple of moments where the story isn't as enjoyable. There's a couple of missions that really stand out that I really don't look forward to on replays, which I've now beaten this game quite a few times. Likewise, to kind of counter that, I feel like there are some things the story really gets right. For example, I really like Miles's character in this game. I think he's very well written and a very likable character all around. There's also a couple of moments I really like the beginning of the game. There's the chase with the Rhino, which is early on enough that I'll just go ahead and say it. And then there's also the bridge sequence, which is shown heavily in the trailers for the game and also in the gameplay here. And I've got to say, the bridge sequence in general is probably my favorite part of this entire game. Um, it's a lot of fun and one of the best sections, probably across either game. But other than those moments, really, I feel like the story kind of meanders a bit at times. I feel like there's some certain moments I'm just really not a huge fan of. Uh, the game is only about 6 hours long, which is kind of my big complaint that I was mentioning I'm going to build up to. And I feel like that's another issue that it has. For a game that's only 6 hours long, it tells a pretty cohesive 6 hour long story, but as a result, there's not a whole lot of time that you spend with these characters outside of the rapid fire go of the different missions. And a lot of the missions that you have that are meant to kind of help out with that character development really are the ones that fell flat for me. In particular, there's one where the family gets together for dinner, and there's a character reveal and just a slower moment to show you the dynamic between the characters. And I'm like that mission in particular just downright sucked in my opinion. And I get, again, it's meant to be a moment to slow things down. I just don't think it's executed as great as they might have pulled off in the first game. Um, and in general, I think that a game that's this short has, some limitations as to how much you can really get out of it. Thankfully, this wasn't a full price release and is also available on PlayStation Plus if you have that. But again, it's a game that I can beat pretty quickly. I platinumed this game um, in about, I want to say, I think it was 17 hours. And that's, you have to do a full New Game Plus playthrough. That's two playthroughs and getting all the side content. So if you're looking for a platinum trophy, I mean, that is pretty short. But point being, I do have an issue with that length, and I think that that also does not do well for the story at times. One of the big things I want to touch on, though, is, you'd think based on how I've talked so far that I really don't enjoy this game, and I very much do. One of the best things about it, for sure, is the gameplay. So the gameplay in Spider-Man 1 was already one of the big standouts for that game for me. I really enjoy the gameplay, and it's very fun and engaging and constantly evolving. However, in this game, it really just ups the ante. It takes the basic core formula of the original game's gameplay and really expands upon it, giving Miles his new abilities and also just, taking the advice that people might have given him on the first game and really improving upon just the general, pieces of it, whether it's speed or different combos and all that. It's very similar to the first game, but I think improved just enough that it's worth, noting, and it's a standout that the gameplay is incredibly fun to this game. Not only do Miles's unique abilities also impact combat, but they also impact the traversal. So you go from just simple web swinging and wall running and climbing to, well, all of that, but also different venom abilities. You can dash and jump in midair and really helps keep movement, fast and fluent and fresh and new. And it gets you going around a lot quicker. I really enjoyed that, especially because there's a lot of missions in this game for whatever reason. They're just on complete opposite sides of the map. And you can always use, the fast travel, but it's a Spider-Man game. Why would you use the fast travel in the first place? Um, and then in general, I do think um, I touched on the story and characters a little bit being as some negatives, but I did also just want to give another shout out to Miles himself and also the core cast of his best friend and his mom. I think they're well done, even if not all of the other characters are. I think that the villain to this game is a really good villain in the sense that he's someone you love to hate, and I think that that makes for a good villain. Not every villain is gonna be the same, but I think that if you really don't like a guy and really want to see him lose, then he's done a good job at making you hate the character. And then, like with the first game, the side content is actually really enjoyable in this as well. I mentioned that I platinumed it, and it was only about 17 hours. Um, a lot of the side content is very just focused on finding collectibles, whereas the first game had some side missions that really impacted the story. This one kind of has one quest line that I think is pretty enjoyable. Features a surprise villain reveal at the end, um, and could very much be setting up for a plot point later in the future that could be pretty interesting. But largely, the side content in this game is just more focused on the collectibles. I also really liked that they improved upon the one side content issue I had with the first, and that was the randomized crimes. In this game, you now have an app that you can look at that will give you, request help that people send you. And I think that that's a much better way of handling the random crimes, I guess, or they're not really random anymore, but they're the same, crime types. And I just much prefer this version. Um, and that's going to go ahead and take me to my review score for this game, which, with everything I have to say about it being a little bit more negative, I do want to clarify in advance that it's obviously still a game that I really enjoy. And I think that I'm a bit more nitpicky with it because of just how good the first game was. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give this game a score of an 8 out of 10. I feel like it's a bit short. I think the story falls flat at times in certain elements, but I think that it's a really good coming of age story for the character it is, and I'm really interested to see where they go in the future for his character and on the whole. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Again, if you enjoyed, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new here. I will be reviewing Spider-Man 2 as quickly as I possibly can beat it, and hopefully you guys are excited for that as I am. With that being said, thanks for watching.